6:34, 6:33. Do a roll call. We've got myself, Mr. Forum, Mr. Coker, Mr. Wantage, Weisenberger, Pence, Leahy, Scott. We got everybody here. We've got our district accountant, Mr. Hallquist, and our district attorney, Mr. Wall, and district secretary, Ms. Shirley, right? Okay. See, it doesn't have your name on it, it's just got district secretary.
Oh, I'll fix that.
Okay, well, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, administrative announcements. We go through these every meeting. We sometimes change it a little bit. So if there's a need that we need to change it, then we will consider it. Okay. If you wish to speak or ask a question, fill out the form on the reception table and place it in the question or comment basket at the head of the table. It's here. We also allow people, I think it says it in here, but we also allow you, if you want to ask questions, and you know about it today for the next meeting, then you can go ahead and send an email to the district secretary and put that in there, and then, we'll be somewhat better prepared to address that. The chair will address questions or comments after the agenda is complete, normally in the new business section, time permitting. Meetings normally last approximately 2 hours if we're lucky. Wait until the chair recognizes you before you talk. Limit your comment or question to 3 minutes, unless the chair specifically extends your time. Where 2 or more represent or share common interest, only one will be designated to speak for a total of 5 minutes. For a good cause, the chairman may extend the time limit. Speakers are not allowed to assign his or her time or any part of their time to another speaker. A member of the public speaking on any matter shall confine him, herself to the question or matter before the board, shall not use unbecoming, abusive, or unparliamentary language, shall avoid commenting on personalities or character of any board member, former board trustees, other officials, staff, or the public. The board reserves the right to have the Clay County Sheriff's Department remove an individual or individuals who fail to meet this request. Address your question and comments only to the chairman and not to a specific trustee or individual in the meeting. Trustees can only respond to an individual if the chairman requests. A person who decides to appeal any decision made by the board with respect to any matter considered at the meeting is advised that this same person will need a record of the proceedings, and that accordingly the person may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, including the testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. The district attorney, district accountant, engineering advisory group may be requested by the chairman to speak at any time for advice, suggestions, or information. Board meetings are audio recorded and posted on the board website, www.lamsbd.com. And then questions can be submitted in advance by email to district.secretary@lamsbd.com. The recording started?
Yes.
Okay, good. To the trustees, all trustees, including board officers, must vote. A trustee with a conflict of interest regarding business before the board must declare that conflict with the chair before the vote. The district attorney may be consulted on the issue. If a trustee needs to leave early, the trustee needs to advise the chair. An important issue may need to be moved up for discussion earlier for approval and vote. So that's the instructions. Approval of the minutes of last month's meetings. Any comments on last month's meetings? No. Okay. Motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Okay. Motion, second. Motion by Larry, second by Carol. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed, okay. Financial results, treasurer's report.
Balance as of August 31st, 2022, $2,228.64. That is for the general checking account. We had a series of checks for a total of $23,284.81. And then after making a $25,000 transfer from the public funds money market into the checking account, the current balance of the checking account is $3,943.83. The public funds money market, that's the new name that Harris Bank gives it. Balance as of August 1st was $591,866.05. Withdrawals, interest, balance $577,103.96. Then now, if you then you take out the $25,000 withdrawal to cover the checks for the checking account, we have a total public funds money market $552,103.96. Give us a total current funds balance of $556,047.79. I know some of you don't have a treasury financial report, but I emailed it, I forgot to make a copy. And so, if you memorized it, any questions? And I'll make a motion that we approve the treasurer's report.
Any discussion? Or any second?
Second.
Jerry seconded. Carl made the motion to approve. Any more discussion?
Who was the second?
Huh?
Who was the second?
Jerry.
Thank you.
Jerry.
Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. Checks.
Okay, current checks. Put it in green this time so I can find the numbers on the black and the white. Check for Shirley Jones, our secretary, $663.80. Our ETF, electronic funds transfer to the Florida Unemployment Fund, $2.07. U.S. Treasury, that's the third quarter payroll taxes, $316.46. Carl Coker Treasurer, that's stamps, mailing to the Florida General Auditor, and also a couple signs. Forest groundworks, $4,688. Tom, I gave you the best, I know, forest question, and Tom and I looking at this, once these two are paid, they should be paid. I had a conversation with him, and he called me. I said, double check yours, because our records seem to be clear. So if you hear anything, let me know, I'll vice versa. Okay, leads, valve, and pump repair, $4,500. Tom Alquist, our Lanstra accountant, $415, and another ETF, that's electronic funds transfer to Clay Electric, $45. Again, that totals $23,284.81. Any questions on the individual checks? Okay, we need approval for check 3790, 3791, 3792, 3793, 3794, 3795, 3796, 3797. So 3790 through 3797 and 2 EFTs.
So moved.
Second.
All.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Did this have, I may be just not paying attention, but as a first payment to the engineer, is that on there?
We did miss that.
I thought it was on, it was on one I
That's
saw.
on, we missed it. Okay, what we'll do is, we'll approve this, and we'll approve, that check. Okay, the check will be for, how do we miss it? It's
Oh, it was on, you had it on.
I know, I
saw
messed
it.
up. Okay, $14,456.51.
No, that's the balance due for the second one.
Good grief.
It's,
Well, it is here, I'm sorry.
97.59.
Good grief. It is here, I jumped right over. Even I put it on green paper. All right, Hanson Professional Services, $9,759.32. That's check number 3795.
Yeah.
Too many invoices. Okay. Any more questions?
Just a comment on it, though, you know, the first invoice we got was, didn't have much backup information on it. So I got back with Hanson and they submitted another progress report to substantiate what they did. All right, and, I did not send that to anybody. I was waiting on, well, I didn't send it to anybody. Probably should send it to the board because it basically, it starts with progress report dated August of 2022, and there was one dated July of 2022. So it starts from 4/26 of 22 when we had a special board meeting where we introduced them, and you know, then we had a board meeting where we voted to contract with Hanson, and it just keeps going in sequence based on the calendar of what they've done and that sort of thing. So it's got general remarks on it, and in the meetings that we had every month, I give an update on it. We thought that Hanson may be here, but well, I'll give you an update in a little bit. They'll show you why they weren't, why we haven't finished the phase one. But I wanted to mention these things here. So the other comment you made, just since we're already on it, is they just submitted their second invoice, and there's a write-up also on where they're at and what the dollars are, and there's task 1 and task 2 and that sort of things.
Basically, the invoice is now getting to track, especially task 1. Task 2 is rather difficult. If I recall, looking at the project, we have a number of grant-related tasks, so it's kind of difficult to select a scope of work. But based on the general description of the research, we'll catch up that later. I'll have a comment from the auditor in a couple seconds.
All right, so any more questions or discussion?
So are you gonna send out a copy of the progress reports so we can take a look at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So no more discussion, so we're to vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the check's passed. All right. Anything else, Carl?
Yes, quickly, real short. The bank request for qualifications will be completed by the next meeting. I'll just do a quick summary as to where we are, and then we'll talk about it the following month. Bring it to the banks that qualify, type of we're not, as one quick thing here is we're not looking for a loan, we're looking for a construction loan, a line of credit, which gives you, we pay for, we pay interest when we have a project, and we'll be talking more about tax exempt interest rates at that time. But again, I'll do a summary for the next meeting, which you'll get, and then the following month we'll talk about it. Next thing, our audit period ends, our fiscal period ends September 30th. The audit must be complete by June 30th. Mary Ann Major Associates, our auditor, advised there are new audit requirements. She'll catch me up later. The one thing, Mr. Chairman, you still need to communicate with Hanson Engineering, the audit engineer infrastructure and overview sections that need to be completed, that we do every year. But I'll give you an email with copies of it and and so they know what they need to relate to. The question will come back, we've had for almost 4 years now, 3 years. Well, are they willing to do it because they're new on the scene? If you recall, Tacoma Engineering refused to do one section, and then they completed one, and then with help of the board approved, myself and the advisory group talked, the advisory group, they made suggestions, we completed. Prior year, we had a situation again with no engineer. The board approved that I write them, and the board came back, well, that's how we did it. So here we are, we're catching up. Last year, I think we did a good job in solving that issue on the infrastructure, how we account for that. So this year, the question will be, after I send you an email, Mr. Chairman, Hans will tell you whether or not they'll do it, and then we'll know where we are on that.
Well, do you anticipate that they won't do it?
Well, Tacoma refused to complete one section the first year because they weren't here. So I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
And so that's coming. The second, all right. Then the district secretary, I'll send another email reflecting the audit documents that are needed to be put on the USB. And Mary Ann and I also discussed the need for accurate invoicing records and keeping a matrix. She wants to see a monthly matrix because last year, Tom and I spent a lot of time, emails back and forth, what categories is under, etc. Then phone calls on Saturday morning, trying to finalize it. We don't need to do that. I see Hanson's catching up on it. They're tightening up their nomenclature as to what task 1 and task 2 is. I think we'll be okay. And I'll have to draw up the matrix. And so I'm finished with that. Now, I'm targeting 10 days to complete the annual assessment collection fee reduction. You saw the email I sent to the county tax. They're involved in a new computer system. I think everybody has a new computer system. So they're cranking one up, and so, but I'll get after that. Our district attorney had to navigate through a variety of, real quick, new requirements for the trim report, even though we don't do the ad valorem tax, we still have to complete the trim. And new requirements came back of how to complete. But I love the column where it says RE all the way down. So Lisa, Hans did a good job of finishing it. I thought that was hysterical. Anyway, that is my treasurer's report for tonight.
Okay. Staff reports, Tom? Hans? I'll interject for you then, and let you and Carl talk about it, or I'll talk about it. But this non-ad valorem assessment roll tax, we talked about it, and we approved the budget in July. We approved the tentative budget in June, and the assessment will be $2,400, as we talked, almost from the time the assessment was approved in October of last year. So there's some people got their tax projection sheet. I got mine. I said, well, that's great. They didn't put the 2,400 on there. But if you read the fine print, it's not going to be on there. It's because it's a non-ad valorem tax. We referenced it in there as municipal service business district, that sort of thing. But that is going on. We've got, it will show up on your tax bill.
Are they going to send a separate bill on it?
I don't know the details. It probably, last year's tax statement had $600 on it, so instead of $600, it'll have MSBD 2,400. Right. I feel like, but I don't know that for a fact. But I've got to sign this one piece of paper that's the final, should be the final thing on coordinating between the county and us. So I wanted to mention that in case somebody showed up and said, well, gee, I guess you decided not to do the 2,400. That's not true. Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Remind me to sign out these checks. Okay, District Secretary, proposed meeting dates.
Yes.
Shirley, you want to cover that?
Well, for this year ending November the 14th is election, and the 8th is election day. So we have scheduled for the 14th, and then again on December the 5th. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. Meetings beginning in January of 23. Since I haven't experienced this before, and last year's was right after the first, it was on the 3rd, but is everybody gonna be around on the 2nd to have a meeting, or do we need to move it a week? Till the 9th? I need a general consensus on that.
Well, in the past, generally, it didn't work well to have it right after.
Well,
A lot of people on vacation. We had several in the past years, no quorum.
okay, I kind of felt that way, but since I didn't know for sure, I
But
wanted
it's
to.
board decisions, but, so whatever the board wants.
Okay, and then, February 6th, March 6th, April 3rd, May 1st, June 5th, July 10th, August 7th, September the 11th, because the 4th is Labor Day. So it would be the second Monday again. October 2nd, November 6th, and December 4th. That's as I have it now. So do we need to fix any of that?
I guess we need to fix January.
January the 9th is what we want to do?
People are shaking their head. All in favor of the 9th?
Yeah.
I guess we can.
Everybody in favor of the
Motion to do
9th?
it.
Aye.
How about a motion to accept this thing and change the 2nd to the 9th? Ma-
Second.
All right, so there's the motion, second, so all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so that carries. So that sets it officially for next year's meetings.
Okay. Now, one more thing. I'm going to be headed for Texas on the 22nd, and I won't be back until the 28th. So we have a short deadline, because it's a short month anyway. I just want everybody to make sure that you get your stuff that you want on the agenda, get that clear and get it to me so I can get that done before I leave, because when I leave, it's gonna be time to get it to Darla anyway.
You're talking about for the October 3rd
The
meeting?
October 3rd.
Okay, the majority of that meeting will be Hanson. I think we ought to allocate as much time as they want, so pretty much we'll just conduct the normal check approvals and that sort of thing, but then have Hanson, who will also have Bergman, who will also have Kimley Horn, give us an update on where they're at. They should be finished with everything on phase 1 by then, and have some comments on where do we go from here, phase 2 wise. I would allocate, unless there's something really, really urgent, I would allocate the financial review that we always have to do. And if there's anything else that's got to be done, but otherwise I would allow that whole time for Hanson.
Okay,
Is that it?
that's it.
Sorry, having said that was a good introduction and the update on the rehabilitation of the dams. Since the last meeting, remember we hired Hanson in June. We voted in June to hire them on a phase 1 project. Phase 1 project basically consisted of reviewing the data that was available from previous engineers and anywhere else they could get data from St. John Water Management District, whoever. It involved starting to do and coordinating with Janet on grants, and they've spent some time doing that. That was a phase 1 project. What else did they do? A site visit, which they did, and meeting with the St. John Water Management District. So those were the 4 major things that were in the targeted phase 1 scope. What I've got, and I sent this to the board, I got it Friday afternoon late, and I sent it to you guys, gals, sometime Friday night, I believe. And what it had in it was meeting minutes from St. John Water Management District, There was a video call. I'll go through that in a minute. Then there was a resume from Sarah Woida. She's with Bergman, and I'll go over that in a minute. Revised funding matrix. I'm not sure what's been revised of it. I know they've done a lot of work, but Janet may be able to comment on that too. Then there was the 24th of August was an inspection of the North Dam, the South Dam, and Lake Ryan Dam. So those that occupied all day. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I thought, as far as the St. John Water Management District meeting, Cammie Dewey, who's with the St. John Water Management District and will be retiring in November, was on the call along with Everett Fry, who's with the St. John Water Management District. And says he's going to work another 17 months or so. But he was on the call. Myself, Brian Wozniak with Hanson, Justin Dewey with Hanson, Ken Avery, who's the 40-year guy from Bergman, 40-year dam experience. He was on the call, and the Sarah Woda from Bergman was on the call. The way they handled it, and some of the key things were that they've been contracted by LAMSTA to evaluate the Lake Ashbury Dam Complex in South Lake Ashbury, the North Lake, South Lake, and Lake Ryan. These dams have been rated in poor and unsatisfactory condition. Deficiencies need to be addressed to upgrade conditions and bring the dams into acceptable regulatory compliance. St. John's Water Management District, St. John's River Water Management District is a local regulatory agency. The meeting was intended to clarify the known deficiencies and develop design criteria to establish acceptable regulatory compliance. There were general discussions, and I'm trying to present information that is factual and not to try to stir up any kind of previous issues that we've had as a board. But here is an example of what they were to do, was to review the data that was available for accuracy. And when they're done with all of that, they may do additional surveys, they may do additional soil sampling, they may do no telling what. But they were to review the information that was available. And here is one of their first comments, general discussion items. Per Tucoy, Lake Ryan only has 25-year capacity. I think that's worded wrong, but LAMSTA believes this is wrong. Irma equaled a 100-year event, and the lake had excess capacity. The USACE report in 1978 indicates a 100-year lake level maintains, at a 100-year flood, the lake level maintains 3.9 feet of freeboard. Law Engineering indicated that a third PMF, which is more than 100 year, will not overtop that Lake Ryan. So as you can see, and I use that as an example because as we go through some of their analysis, there are things that aren't adding up. So, and that's their job, is to go through it, figure it out, and figure out what's right and what we're going to do about it. Here's another one that is, I think, very significant. Don't know where it's going to wind up, but the 2012 St. John River Water Management District permit application indicated 500-year and 100-year design. So it's confusing, right? Everett noted that Everett Fry, the St. John Water Management District guy, noted that the staff report, which is their internal report, called out 100-year design. This is what St. John Water Management District has accepted. Modeling was produced showing 500-year would not overtop. However, other factors may have limited recognition of 500-year design, perhaps wave runoff, dam core elevations, other factors. So what I'm saying and what they're saying by this is that to design the new system, you have to know what you're gonna design it to. Are you gonna design it to a 100-year flood? Are you gonna design it to a third PMP, which is, half PMP is about 500 years, it'll be somewhere between 100 and 500, 300, or full PMP. Different people have said in this room and said you're not gonna get a permit unless it's full PMP. That's not what these people said. They didn't say what it would be, all right? And they weren't gonna tell you what it would be. So what we have to do is we have to do the research, we have to do the right thing for the longevity of the dams, for the safety of the people that are affected by the dams, which is a lot of people, not just the people down below the dam. You know, you've got Black Creek, you've got things like that. There's a lot to be considered there. So the one thing they said was that, like on the South Lake, they said this specifically about the South Lake, why they put the 100-year in there, was because you had a 100-year, quote, design, even though it had never been permitted for 100 years. There wasn't a permit. None of the dams have a permit, except for that South Lake dam. And they permitted it at 100-year with some improvements from the existing system. As you know, the existing system didn't have a spillway on the South Lake. So that was considered 100 plus some upgrades. So at an absolute minimum, and we won't know this for some time yet, at an absolute minimum, they've already demonstrated that you didn't go full PMP on, which is the 1,000-year, on the permit for the South Lake. So what does that mean? That means that probably going to be something less than 1,000-year, might be less than 500-year. I know the data that we all looked at over the past 1 year that I've been involved, the only thing you ever heard anybody talk about was 500-year, you know, half PMP. And that's not what their task records reveal about the South Lake, and that's not what they said about what we're doing now. What they did say, though, is that they're not going to tell us what to present to them to permit, to ask for in a permit. So we will have to do some analysis and determine what the engineering group thinks is the right thing to do, considering safety of people, considering all these different factors, and what we think the right thing to do is also. So what I'm saying is it going to be 100-year plus a little bit of improvement? Probably not. Is it going to be a full PMP? Probably not. It's going to be something less than that. So I thought that was encouraging information. When we had the site visits, Everett Fry, one of the guys that was on these meetings, and frankly, he's the guy that said, wait a minute, our task force records didn't show 500-year. He's the one that went and dug it out. And he was here for our inspection on the North Dam. He left after that. But he knows, he's been around here. He's looked at information through the years here. And so he's very, very knowledgeable in what goes on there. And he repeated we had the advisory group, myself, and Hanson had several people, and one from Bergman. So he repeated that, same kinds of comments in that sitting on the dam there on the North Lake when they were visiting. So I took that as being very encouraging because literally I remember distinctly that some people in this room right here said you're not getting anything less than full PMP. So that is back in our court now, though. So we have to, with our engineers, they have to do, let's see if I can find the incremental analysis. That was the words, and I keep trying to say sensitivity analysis, but it's incremental analysis. They're going to do some analysis under different conditions and different rates, and that will kind of zero it in on, well, what's the difference really in 100-year and a third PMP and half PMP? You know,
PMP? I'm sorry, you're using.
probable maximum PM precipitation.
Okay.
Probable maximum, so that's the maximum rainfall you should be able to get in a 24-hour period.
It's the theoretical worst storm you could ever have.
It'd be nice to know that rather than just the acronym for those of us who.
Yeah, I'm sorry, actually. There's also a PMF, and I don't know, but we'll forget that. So that's kind of what went on with St. John Water Management District. There was obviously talk about the conditions of the dams and that sort of thing, and that was before the inspection though. So the design criteria is that's still ongoing, all right? And we will wind up having to submit an application to St. John Water Management District that will say, this is the criteria that we are designing to and what we're asking the permit to be and why. And it'll have this incremental analysis that I just mentioned as backup. Frankly, the guys from Bergman that were on the call, they're the ones that suggested that. St. John Water Management District people said that they weren't able to tell us what you were going to have to do, that you would have to put that in your permit with backup information and that sort of thing. So, other things just to give you a feel for, okay, what is Hanson doing? Are they just dragging their feet or what? And this ties back into the information to do the analysis and establish criteria on is we through Tracy Woods got FEMA grant to do the emergency action plan, which included inundation studies and inundation study being, if you wipe out a dam, then what happens downstream and all these sort of things. And that information was supposed to be available to us. It took 6 weeks to get that information. 6 weeks with Tracy Wood's help and with trying to pull on people and push on them and everything else. There's something called an HEC HMS model. That's what they didn't get. But that has models that if you say, I want to do this incremental analysis, you take that program and you change data. You input, say, a third PMP, or you input a half PMP, and it generates more information for you. The other thing they talked about was in the EAP, Emergency Action Plan, the guy that did that is looking at it from an absolute worst case situation. All right? Well, they question some of that because it's not necessarily what's realistic as opposed to worst case. They also researched some in some of the other data that was available, particularly Law Engineering's reports in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and it talked about the fact that there's a difference in probable maximum precipitation in the state of Florida versus other states. And so they brought other things like that into it. So they've questioned some of the data that's even published and will use some of that in their analysis and decision making on what we actually apply for from a permit standpoint. Now the permit can always be turned down, so it's not a guarantee. But I think that everybody was two things. Everybody that was involved in this kind of wanted this is what you got to do, and we'll agree to this or that or the other, and you didn't get that. But the good news is you didn't get it's full-fledged PMP, probable maximum precipitation. So I think everybody walked away from that meeting feeling really pretty good about it. Now that they've got the other data from this emergency action plan, then they're moving forward with doing some of these incremental analysis. So, all right. Bergman, Ironically, guy's name is Avery. I can't remember his first name, but I had it here a while ago. Oh, here it is. Ken Avery. He's the guy that's got 40 years of dam experience with Bergman. And he was the guy that was supposed to have been here when we had the first meeting here on site with the group. And his flight got delayed or canceled or whatever, and he didn't show up. Well, guess what? His mother died right when this trip down here was supposed to take place. And so this Sarah Woda, who works for him, came in his place. Since then, he's participated in their discussions about the site visit and pictures and measurements and things like that. But she's got 17 years experience, a couple of years with Bergman. She's got a bachelor's in environmental systems engineering. She's got a master's in water resources engineering. She's licensed in a few states. She's got a bunch of professional affiliations. She's done this HEC HMS study that I mentioned a while ago. She's done those kinds of things. They gave me 5 or 6 pages of background information on her and all that, so y'all want me to read it all to you? I don't think so. The only point is that she's pretty experienced also. She works for this Avery guy. And so she was here and went on the tours and inspections of all the dam sites. Okay. The revised August 16th dam rehabilitation project funding. I didn't even read this thing. I sent it to y'all on Friday. I don't know whether y'all had a chance to read it or not. Okay. Okay. And then the last thing I'll go through quickly is we've got 3 draft for comment reports, like this one, inspection reports. This is on the North Lake, South Lake, Lake Ryan. And I gave y'all a copy of that. If you have read through it and have any comments, then please send them to me so I can get them to him, so he can get them changed so they wind up being finalized. But they're not finalized yet. I gave him a few comments. So there was nothing major, but there were a few comments that I gave him on things that are wrong, but they're not. Again, they're not significant. They will be here. They being some of the Hanson people, the Kimley Horn lady that was here. I forget her name. Smith. Kelly Smith. Yeah, I don't think Lauren might not be here, but she would be available on phone or on, maybe if we got a system or something that we could do something reasonable, she might be available on something like that. And Ken Avery's supposed to be here too. So they will physically be here on the 3rd of October to bring us up to date on everything they've done so far and a forward look as to where we go from here. These reports, and once you guys give me feedback and corrections, then this is stuff that we need to publish on our website, make available to the community. They did this on August 24th, and it was 90 degrees. It was hot and sweaty, and we stomped through some places that I didn't lead them. Let me put it that way. I said, I'll follow you if you want to go there, but you're going through all kinds of stuff, particularly on the northeast dam, going down towards Black Creek. That's not a real nice place to travel. But nobody fell down, nobody got bit or anything like that. So, but like I said, I have to admit, I wasn't the leader of that tour. One other thing on their comment says, the observations and recommendations contained in this report are in addition to information provided in previous assessments or inspections by others and are not intended to modify the assessment ratings provided in those documents. So they didn't do enough to totally challenge previous people's reports. They have done enough to know what they need to do going forward with the improvements that will be needed. But we know everybody should know this, that all the spillways, the primary spillways or the kettles with the valves in them, those things are on their last legs. Is that 5 years, 7 years, what? I don't know. Tim won't give us a guarantee of 5 years or 7 years, but it's not, the point is that they're not gonna be, they're not gonna be around, so we've got to move on. We don't have a choice.
That was 5 years, just down to 3.5 now.
5 years, a year and a half ago, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, they talk about previous inspections and they reference back to the Jackson report. And frankly, I was a little disappointed because I thought they could have contradicted some of this stuff. But then if you look at it and say, what difference does it make? It probably doesn't make any difference. We're going to address the stuff that needs to be addressed. They're gonna help us do that, make sure that it's done, that sort of thing. They talk about other things that have been talked about in this meeting. As an example, on the North Lake, the spillway is outlet channel Black Creek is on the property, not owned by the district. You all know that. Let's see. They talk about seepage, water seepage on the extreme east end. They talk about where the east kettle discharges into Black Creek, about erosion around that pipe. They talk about all the trees that are on all of the dams, basically, but particularly on the North Dam, that's trees that are on Lamsta property, but also trees that are on other property. So they point those kinds of things out and say that somebody is going to need to do something about those things. They say that you don't want to go in and just wholesale cut trees down, especially when you get down around the creek, because that helps keep things there. One other thing that they talked about that I found interesting is I have been told, and I'll just leave it at that, it could have been wrong, or I could have interpreted it wrong, but I have been told that the dam stops at Black Creek. Well, that's not what this guy that was their head inspector guy said. He said, you can see that's natural ground right here. He had pointed out, there is the toe of the dam right there. And it'd be, in some cases, a good ways away from the creek. So what he said was different than what has been said in these meetings, and to me personally. So.
Oh, you're saying it doesn't extend to the creek?
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And he would point out, say, look, there is the toe of the dam. This.
Yeah, it's pretty much where the slope flattens out.
Right.
Yep.
And he'd say, this is what we're looking at here, where we're standing here is natural. So that's the way it was. So, there was talk about another thing that I thought.
Yeah. So in other words, the creek embankment doesn't necessarily need to be detreeified.
No, other than
the part that's right around the spillway itself.
Where it's eaten out, yeah. and that will be, that'll probably wind up being replaced in the new system anyway.
Yep.
So, they talked about another thing that's interesting, and we've seen this and heard this on the different dams and different parts of different dams is the orangish color that you will see in some places was always been referred to as clay in the that's the way it's been described. Every time it was described to me prior to this meeting that's what it was. And in the spillway, there's a lot of reddish color stuff. And they said, well, that's the clay from the core of the dam. Their engineer guy said, that's iron bacteria. All right? So it's not, he's saying it's not clay from the dam. And they could have got some samples, and that may be something that they do in their next steps, is get some samples, you can verify that, right? So, let's see. He wound up giving us conclusions and recommendations on each one of the dams. I think I mean, there's some simple things like where either now or in the past where the people that mow have spun the tires and, you know, made ruts and stuff like that, that we ought to try to at least seed that, you know, and that we need to cut the underbrush back in a bunch of different areas, and seed it so that we can get a better cover there. Because there's, you know, we don't have a time frame on how long this is going to take, so we don't need it to continue to deteriorate. Okay. And then they've got pictures, you know, this whole series of pictures, and in some of them they just say, hey, here's a picture like of the slope, downstream slope, and then the next one says, you need to seed the bare areas and repair if the condition deteriorates. So they do it that way. Some of the pictures tell you to do something, some don't. This is on the extreme east end, right across from the boat ramp. And when you go down between Mr. Sands' property and, what's the guy's name? I met his wife back this way towards your house. Can't remember her name now. But anyway, we went down there and there's some water flowing there. It could be a French drain. I mean, it could be a spring. You know, it's clear, but he says you need to continue to monitor that. If it picks up in speed or color or anything like that, it's clear water. But you need to monitor it. So other than that, you don't have to do anything yet. So, the charcoal-looking concrete that protects the lakeside of the North Lake, so that's got to be fixed or replaced. You know, and you can see that in a lot of places where it's washed out and cracked, and you can see sand back into the lake, and you can see voids underneath it. So he's saying we got to do something there. Remove brush and debris from the spillway. Here's a big one. This one might be somewhat political too. Everything is in it. Is emergency spillway. Remove the siphon pipe and hardware and debris. All right. Remove it. St. John Water Management said the same thing. And it don't work anyway.
Couldn't understand you.
I'm sorry. It said remove the siphon pipe and hardware and debris from the spillway. Remove it. We don't have a permit for it. We never had a permit for it. And it don't work right now. So rather than spend any more money to try to repair it, since it ain't on our property either, part of it ain't, then get it out of there. That'll come up again before the meeting's over, I'm sure. South Lake, there were a few things. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but there's a few things on the South Lake that I thought was important. Again, they used Jeff Jackson's report, September of 2020, and he talks about things that like evidence shows there's substantial probability that surface piping erosion is currently occurring within the dam embankments, which significantly reduces dam stability. There's evidence the HDPE liners have failed. The grout between the original pipes and the lining, which was intended to prevent subsurface piping erosion, has completely failed. You know, there's comments in every one of these dams based on his report that I don't agree with. But, you know, doesn't matter whether I agree with it or not, but what are we gonna do? What's our objective in front of us? And that's where we need to stay focused. I say that because I think these guys, if you compare the guys we've got working for us now versus why we don't have some of those other people, then I feel very good about that. The articulating blocks on the spillway of the South Lake need to be replaced. So that old system needs to be replaced.
Did they say why?
Yeah, because it's washed out a lot in a lot of different places.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Can't you refill it? I mean, they prefer not to do that.
they say that you're gonna just keep doing the same thing, and it's
Okay.
not.
That makes sense.
I wasn't gonna say this, but since you brought it up, I'll say that Mike Kelter was with us on the tour, and Mike Kelter said he was asked, why did you put articulating block instead of pouring concrete? And he said that the board made that decision based on aesthetic value, how pretty it was compared to the functionality or cost. That's the first time I'd ever heard that.
I was not on the board, I said the auditor, that's correct.
Well, what I heard was that it was a lot cheaper, and the board forced engineers into going cheaper. But there's no doubt from their standpoint, they say, yeah, that's gonna have to come out, or that's gonna have to change, should have been poured concrete first. So,
They recommend pouring a solid concrete slab?
they didn't, none of those details have been worked out, they just say
Okay.
what you got is
Okay.
not.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, all right, so that was South Lake, Lake Ryan. The big deal with Lake Ryan's, there's no emergency spillway. So they said, yeah, and everybody knew that, but, the trees, and especially the big pine tree that's on the dam, there's certainly water seepage in that area big time, and so they're pretty worried about that. And then they talk in general, if you look at even Lake Ryan, along the dam, both sides, except for where Tim launches his boat to do his work, and you got, let's call it vegetation. It's sort of trees, small trees, brush, that sort of stuff that, they say, why do you leave it that way? You know, why don't you take care of that, you know? It looks bad and it ain't helping you none, so we should, you know, here's an example of a picture. You can't see it from there, but we had that 85-inch TV that Tom talked about in a minute. We'd just be making a presentation with, and everybody could see the whole thing. I don't know that. But that's some examples of things. But they were worried about the big tree, particularly on Lake Ryan, because there's a lot of sloppiness in the lower part of that dam coming down that way. So, all right, now. So they're continuing to work, continuing to try to do these analysis and come up with options on what appears to be the best approach to take. And there's going to be another discussion with St. John Water Management District, and they're trying to get Tracy Wood to participate. She's the dam safety officer for the state. They're going to try to get her to participate in that. And, before, you know, they get into, presenting their recommendation on what to do. And they'll talk with us about that too, before they get into, a firm recommendation for here's what we want the permit criteria to be. So, and that will be, the 3rd of October, I think is the right date. So,
Since you talked about the siphon being, should be replaced, taken out, I guess you sent, or Tim sent us a proposal for removing it. Should we go ahead and talk about that now and get it done?
it's really under new business,
Is that a new business?
but I have under new business,
Okay, I'll wait.
I mean, it doesn't matter, you can,
I'll wait.
I feel like I've talked too much already, so maybe we will let somebody else talk.
I'll wait.
Okay, so, I don't know if we've got any questions that had to do with that or not.
Alden, I have questions concerning what you reviewed.
I'm sorry?
I have questions about what you reviewed, if you're taking those now.
Well, I was trying to figure out whether it's appropriate to talk about them now or not. And then this one, if you'll bring it up here, Kay, I'll consider it.
I have to have this back so that I can read from it.
But you don't want me to read your writing?
You can read my writing, but I have to have it back.
Okay,
And it's appropriate to discuss.
okay. I'm sure it would, yeah, it wouldn't be-
That's from Lola, not me.
All right. It can't be from Lola, it can be from one person.
It can be from Lola as co-owner of the dam.
Are you, what percentage owner of the dam are you?
Lola is a 50% owner.
Okay, I was just curious. All right. I'm gonna hold that. Mr. Goodnight asked, what percentage of the total volume of the Black Creek watershed do the Asbury Lakes represent? Is the tail wagging the dog here? In their calculations on the EAP, they being Hanson and Bergman, that is some of the modeling changes that they have already suggested that be made. And that leads into, what are you gonna wind up with? You're gonna wind up with third PMP, half PMP, or what? Because they don't agree with the watershed and in turn the inundation study that was done. And they brought that up, and the St. John River Water Management District, people seem to accept that logic, so I thought that was okay.
I think that's something they should calculate, that should be part of the permitting process going in.
And that's what
I
they're,
get the feeling people would say, oh my God, the dam's failed, we're gonna have a 6 or 10 foot tidal wave running down Black Creek. That's the case. My gut feeling is, if all 3 of the dams failed tonight, we might raise 3 inches down there at Highway 17. You know, there's a heck of a big creek, and these are small lakes. And they're half the size they were 30 years ago, because they're so dense, so much they haven't kept up with the dredging. So why are we designing to a 1,000-year catastrophe when if it happened tomorrow, it wouldn't even be a catastrophe?
I'm gonna go ahead and address what you've got here, Kate, I think. I will try to do it diplomatically. I do not agree that one person can submit this with your name on it and say that it's asked by lake lot owners.
The chairman of my board asked for me to ask those questions based on the board.
And where is your chairman?
The chairman can't be here. She knows the questions that I'm asking.
No, she can't know the questions that you're asking.
Yes, she does.
How does she know?
Let me just take them from me then.
How does she know the questions you're asking? Is she listening in? I mean, that's fine if she is, I don't care, but,
We discussed them. She asked for me to submit those questions going forward.
well, I'm telling you that, I'm fixing to tell the whole room that you did not know ahead of time some of these questions. You did not. And I'm going to explain it to you in just a minute. It said Alton has said that 2 or more progress reports from Hanson. Alton, he has 2 or more progress reports from Hanson, but has not shared those reports with the board nor publicized on the website. Why? One I just got, the second one I just got Friday. Okay? The first one, Carl submitted it to everybody by email. It's on the board. And then I got Hanson to revise it. So that's the answer to the first one. And the other reason it's a technical, incapable operator of a computer system is me, is there were some comments made in a series of emails that I couldn't figure out how to copy the darn thing and send it to other people without having all the BS that was attached and associated with it. So I did not send the first one, and it didn't say much anyway, okay? Now this last one just went out. And we did not, this says Hanson's contract specifies monthly reports, and that's what's included with their
June,
invoice.
July, and August, we should have 3.
You will have, the one they submitted was in, the first one was in July. Yeah, July, okay? And they've got some updates that start on the 26th of June and goes through the 26th of July. And I don't remember the date that I got that, okay?
So
But,
you're getting ready to publish that.
yeah, if I can figure out how to do it without copying all the other crap that's on the email, okay? This one, we just got it Friday, and it starts on 8/1 and goes through August the 13th. All right, so that's the second invoice we got. You say, and it goes on here to say, you discussed 2 invoices being paid to Hanson. Why did you pay them in the absence of progress reports? We only approved 1 payment tonight. We didn't approve 2 payments.
It
So,
was very difficult to follow what was being
well, then why'd you put it down there that way? If it was
very
difficult,
We
then
heard one statement saying there was
I don't appreciate that.
$14,000.
For the record, I don't appreciate that, okay? That's,
From what I heard
but
from
whatever you
Carl,
said's fine. You know, it's a public meeting, you get to say what you want to say. I'll let you talk, and there's my answers, okay?
I do. So the reports will be published so that we can see what kind of progress is being made. What I'm concerned with is that now we have 3 months. They had a 3-month intro phase for their phase 1. We just want to know where we are within that.
And do I
Have
not,
they met all the steps of that?
have I not updated every month what the progress has been from Hanson? Have I not done that?
We haven't seen
In
it
this
on the
meeting.
website, Carl. I mean, excuse me. We haven't seen it on the website.
Even what I just went through is in a draft for comment form. That's the biggest thing with that and this Hanson, this St. John Water Management District. It's the most important things we've got. That just came up.
We just
Okay?
need to see
And
that on the website.
it does not need to be on the website until it's not in draft form for comment. The people that are in the engineering advisory group and the people on this board need to make the corrections that are needed. I've made a few, so I know there are more that have to be made. So there's no need in putting out until it's in the final form, which shouldn't take long. There's no need to put it on there if it's gonna be putting out false information.
Alton, if they were contracted to give us monthly reports, which we're hearing that that's what's in their contract, we haven't seen them. And from my impression, what I'm seeing is 3 months in absence. Now tonight, you're revealing that there are 2 reports, and you shared them with us tonight. But Where have they been? June, we expected to see it at the end of the month. We expected to see everything.
Well, at the end of,
month, and we haven't
the
seen
end,
those.
the end of the month, they didn't start, and the contract wasn't signed until the 10th of June. So what end of the month is,
End of the month June, end of the month July, end of the month of August.
well, that's subject to interpretation. But I think that surpassed our 3 minutes discussion here. Is there any others that deal with this particular subject we were talking about? No, I didn't think so. Okay, let's move on. I think we're down to, are you up again, Carl, or what?
I'm gonna zip through mine.
Okay.
The first one, LA gang jurisdiction, the only comment I will make is, I'll include it in the bank request for qualifications. One bank which pursued us to some degree, several meetings, and hyped their abilities and everything else, at large construction. Had a program that combined a grant and a loan, but the problem was, after I looked at it, and I advised him that we didn't qualify because we didn't own 100% of the bank. They finally researched that and were correct. So that'll be summarized in the report. I'm gonna skip, we already did the Clay County collection fees, I'm gonna skip number 3, and we're ready to go into bid and purchasing policy review. Everybody up?
Yeah.
Y'all got a copy? All right, Matt, you want to jump in? Hans did some updating fast this afternoon on several of the questions. And I will find mine here in a second. A lot of pages. Aha, there we go. All right, page 1. Matt did a lot of work on correcting verbiage here and there, and Hans, you made, I saw a note referencing, let me find it again. To your mind, black print to your red print. Do we need, Matt, change the capital to small? Is that a big deal, or is that,
Well, I mean, it is for document interpretation. I mean, if you see a word that's capitalized, what that means is it's a defined term in the document. And then if you see when it's not capitalized, it means you're not referring to that same definition, if that makes sense. So if you're going to say bidder and you're talking about the person defined as a bidder, then it should be capitalized throughout the document when you're referring to that person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think the capitalizations need to stay. I mean, there were a few typos in there that have been identified. That's fine. Those can be corrected.
Matt, any comments?
Just going through my edits. It's been a few months since
Yeah.
All right, so do we have a bid notice web address, or did we intend to leave that blank? That is in definition, no. That's in C, bid policy. It's on page 1, bottom of page 2. Notice of rejection will be posted at LAMSIS website at. Do we have a specific URL for noticing of bids?
No, we don't.
Just something we could set up probably. It's probably not a big deal. What else? All right, so I followed the comments about, yep, I'm good there. Most of that's typos.
Go to page 1 then.
Yeah, good on page 1, good on, what am I looking at? I'm looking at page,
Yeah, on page 2, with reference to the board reserves the right to reject any and all bids without cause, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you asked the question, doesn't this defeat the entire purpose of the policy? And then Hans responded, policy document covers more than just the issue covered in the sentence. There are about 6 or 7 different rights being reserved to the district in this, and similar paragraphs in this document. Nothing wrong with the district reserving certain rights to itself. I think it should. Most documents have the same sort of reservation of rights embedded in it. The reservation of rights doesn't have to defeat any purpose of the document, but rather it services as added protection and flexibility for the district.
Yep, I'm good with that.
Okay, all right. Now, let's see here. Page 2. All right, going on to page 3. One other question, you had a good question. The certificates of insurance have changed, and the new wording, they take out, there used to be a split limit on I even stop and think about this, Carol. There was each accident was actually split, is now only one limit. It's defined as each accident 100,000, disease, each employee 100,000. I got Seaside, I don't know where that came from. Disease, policy limit 100,000. So there's 3 limits on coverage B for workers' compensation. Now those can be expanded as we may require them up to $1 million or more.
So, but what is an employer's liability disease policy? What is that?
Employer's life, that's coverage B. I'm taking Carol's under it. Coverage A is statutory. You break a leg, you're sent to a doctor and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
It's set in the schedule for payment. Coverage B, it's been a while since I've been in the business, but before, the employee had a choice of not accepting coverage A statutory and suing in the coverage B. I don't think that's changed. And the law basically, I'm an attorney, but I remember cases where the law was pretty stiff for an employee actually winning in a coverage B, but some did.
Well, I don't practice law in the area of insurance, but I could be wrong. My understanding, so when each accident, that's like an accident.
Correct.
Like we would typically think. The disease policy, I think, would cover if someone has a heart attack or a stroke or something like that while they're on the job. I could be wrong on that. Like I said, that's not my in and out day job, but that's my understanding. That's how it separates it in the policies.
May I interject?
Yeah, sure.
I know where I work, we do have a disease policy, and that disease policy is now been changed to reflect any disease you can get, COVID, hepatitis, anything from the workplace. As long as you can directly connect it to the workplace, that's what the disease policy covers.
All they do is change the double limit for, just not each accident. Starting the minimum is 100,000, then you break into the disease portion of the policy.
And who's the insured on this? Is it the board or is it just Shirley or?
No, the board.
The board, okay.
It's based on Shirley, and the board is thrown in 3.
Okay.
And that's not uncommon. I did that as underwriting manager with Arthur. So it's not uncommon to do that. Higher payroll is based on her payroll, $6,000.
Okay.
Okay, so is there any question? It's a matter of redefining the new certificates of insurance only reflect one limit for the accident area.
And I didn't have a note on there, but I'm reading professional liability. What
Okay.
do we have any professionals operating under a license that could be liable for something?
That's not on the workers' compensation. That should be. That's a separate category. I didn't note that. Professional liability covered engineers, generally, or basic for us engineers or anybody with a.
Okay, so that's our umbrella over Hanson.
They carry it to protect us. They carry general liability, automobile, workers' compensation, and professional liability to cover their errors and emissions as an engineer.
Okay.
And they add this as additional insurance.
All right.
And that limit also could be increased from a million
I think that's more
upwards.
information, what somebody has to, what do you think?
And again, I think there's an error here also. When recorded by contract per occurrence, that basically applies to general
We
liability,
got the permit.
maybe automobile, but maybe general liability. We generally want occurrence policy versus professional liability policy. Generally, it's claims made. It means a claim has to be made within the policy period. It has more restrictions than an occurrence policy. You get involved in tail coverage and everything else. So that we need to define that, break that out as a different category, professional liability, that's a move down. It's not
Okay.
part of the workers' compensation. All right.
You want me to move that to the other area?
Matter of fact, I could move it back up with, oops, I went backwards here. Where am I? That's page. Anyway, where it says automobile and general liability, move it back, move it up there, under there. Okay, moving on. All right, we get down to let's see here. Losing track. We're getting down to the bottom where it's already authorized to return bid bonds. Wouldn't it be required?
Yeah, I mean, Matt's comment's correct. You are obviously required to return those. It's just that
Oh,
gives,
yeah.
that gives more detail as to the timing of it, so the first part of that sentence, to Matt's point, before the comma, would be not necessary for statute, but then when you look after the comma, it gives the timing of when that would happen. So obviously you do have the obligation to return that, but the document defines when and how requests are to be made.
So I didn't fully understand. It has both clauses. It says as soon as practicable and upon written request. Is it one or the other?
Let me see, where are we on that page?
That was the next line.
Well,
Or is that a
It's
legal
just-
phrase that makes sense? Just, I read it as neither or, but I might not be understanding it properly.
a lot of times the way these are written is to protect the drafter. Here, the drafter is the district. And so it's saying, okay, we're required to return it, and we'll do so as soon as practicable upon written request. So if you make the request, Monday at 3 p.m., don't come to us on Tuesday at 8 a.m. and say, hey, you're a day late.
Okay, so maybe we can remove the comma between those two clauses. As soon as practicable upon written request, that's one clause. 'Cause I was reading it with the comma separating it, that's where I was confused.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want
Okay.
to get rid of the comma, that's fine.
Okay. All right, that makes sense then. That all looks good. What is this? In all events, the secretary shall. Yeah, I did. I think this was just a word typo or something. In all events, the Lambda secretary shall cause to be spread upon the minutes.
Yeah, it's a weird way of phrasing it, but yeah, it's like you said. So
Okay.
just put it in the minutes, so I can change that.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
Good with that? I'll be on the next page. We get down to, again, we're talking about, we already answered the question, the board reserves the right.
Yep, I'm good with that.
Okay, all right, we'll go with that. And we flip over to the next page. Nothing there. Nothing on the next page. And then, let's see. I lost what page we're on. The start, starts at the top of contract renewal regardless of all contracts. Must be reviewed for bidding every. Okay, the question was from you. You thought 5 years was too long. And I just put 5 years into it as based on what we've done in the past. The board can do anything it wants. But Collins, is there another way, from the standpoint, okay, we don't have a policy, but we could have a contract potentially which would define
A 3-year contract.
3-year contract.
So we just have to have a minimum of every 5 years, more frequently at our discretion. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah,
Does that make sense? Okay.
yes,
All right, I'm good with that.
okay,
Yeah, I just, in general,
right. I understand.
especially in an era of inflation, you can scare off some potential bidders by saying, I want a 5-year bid from you.
We have a one contract right now, I think it's over 12 years of age, but that's our auditor.
Yeah,
And we know the scene on that, we know what the price is, because I talked to other special districts. They're averaging $15,000 a year.
Yep.
She only raised us to 10. Okay, so now we're looking at, let's see, should we really be concerned about tax revenue for the county? And let's see, that question, answer comes up.
I don't know that I addressed that. We can remove that. It doesn't have to be in there.
I'm sorry.
That part of that sentence can be removed. That's fine.
Okay, I think that's, we're getting around to that one, okay. We'll remove that section, okay, Matt?
yep, I'm good with that.
We flip it over. Let's see, oh yeah, you asked about, on a scale of what, referencing,
Yeah, so should we say 5 percentage points maybe? That way it's not arbitrary, it's relative to 100%.
that works for me.
Okay.
I'm open, you could have a even longer
Can
scale.
we change that to 5 percentage points and that
Yeah,
way?
you just want to put the word percentage
Yeah,
in it?
that works.
That's fine.
And that way if it's a 200 point thing, we know it's 10 basis points.
Yep.
Yeah, sweet.
And I think the last one, should we exclude non-Lansing citizens in reference to exemptions to the bid policy and procedure in reference to emergency situations? And Hans responded. If the board is going to include an exception for emergency procedures, it would be difficult to justify an exception for areas of the population the Lansing Charter doesn't cover. However, with that being said, I think if there's an issue affecting those in Black Creek, the issue would probably also be affecting Lansing to some degree. So this exception would still likely cover dangers to the surrounding Black Creek area.
So I didn't exactly follow that. Is there an issue from your perspective with that, or is it good as it is?
Where it says citizens of
Yeah,
Lamstown?
as opposed to citizens of Lake Asbury or the area or affected citizens or something more general and not exclusionary.
Well, I just think, it's not meant to be exclusionary, but we're just talking about the Lambsta bid and purchase policy, so.
Okay,
I just,
Okay.
I don't, if we're gonna, the only point I was trying to make, and maybe I wasn't clear in my answer, is Matt's point's valid, but I don't know that you can put in there an exclusion for areas that the charter doesn't cover, but if there's an emergency situation in those areas, it's probably gonna be an emergency situation at Lambsta, so I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know that it really matters.
okay.
I guess.
As long as you don't see a problem with it legally, I'm good with the way it
Yeah,
is.
that's fine.
All right, I'm good with that, Carl.
Okay. We're through with the guts of it. Alton, anybody questions about?
I have 0 questions.
Yeah, there was one, there's at least a couple more things.
We missed something?
Yeah, so emergency purchases, not that I think that Alton's gonna swindle us for $50,000, but 50 grand for an emergency purchase authorization's a lot of money.
Good, I'm glad you brought that.
I know it's St. John's Water Management District, I couldn't make a $50,000 emergency purchase.
Yeah, that can be changed to whatever you all want.
put
I
that
just
in
threw a
the
number in there.
conversation.
So I'm thinking an emergency situation is, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking you need up to 5 grand to go out, procure parts and fix something in a heartbeat. You think that would cover something that's pretty short term in nature and urgent? Okay. I'm getting the thumbs up
All right,
for
I'll
those
change-
listening on the audio.
Yep, I'll change that to 5,000.
Was there
It's
anything?
not a whole lot if you think about a valve repair and have to get a diver to come in and all that. We spent $2,500 for a diver, and we spent more than that with machine shops, and you spent more than that with machine shops and all that. So I think you're half of what it needs to be.
But a diver, you're not gonna procure a diver in for an emergency situation.
Sure you are. I've got the guy's phone number in my phone right now. Blissful Bottoms is the name of the company. And he responds too.
So, I mean,
I just haven't had an emergency that I have been called on right away to do something. You know, usually it has to get pretty comfortable. You're right,
but I mean, if that's the case, we could still call an emergency meeting. We could do that the next day, the same day. We could get a quorum and we could vote you however much money you need. That work?
I'll call it a game, and that goes a lot.
You look at what happened, I mean, it's a completely different scale, but that dam in California, where they started cutting checks to people for millions of dollars to do crush stone and try and stop that dam from failing. Can't imagine something like that here.
I mean, what do you guys think? Do you have an opinion? 5 versus 10 grand?
I leave it at 50. I don't think.
Leave it at 50, ladies.
We don't know.
I think we're talking about two level emergencies. An emergency for what Tim does, $10,000 seems to be a pretty fair amount when we think about all the things you have to do, that he has to do, done right away. But if we had a major dam go, that's more than an emergency, that's something else. 50,000 isn't gonna help us. So
Correct.
I say we go for the $10,000, which we know we have seen used before at that level. And then we'll deal with the big stuff if we have to later. That's just how I see it.
Okay. Gentlemen? 5, 10, 50?
10.
Carl?
Consensus, it was 10, is fine.
Okay, I'm good at 10.
We have to make a motion on
I think we'd be safe to do it.
that? Yeah.
So I move that we make the limit for the chair $10,000 in this document.
Second.
All in favor? Any more discussion? I'm about to get out of order here. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
One of the things.
Opposed? Okay, so it carries.
Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, originally, okay, I have no problem with that at all. Originally, the question comes up, call in an emergency meeting. Right now, I don't know because my eyes are going back to yellow, green, and white. But I'm looking at page 13, I think, if that tracks up correctly here. Let's see here.
That was 10,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, our problem is call an emergency meeting. And I thought I originally put wording that said, emergency meeting, you call, if the chairman's not available, the vice chair could call, if the vice chair is not available, the treasurer could call. Because we had problems in the past calling emergency meetings. And because, timing.
Is that in the purchasing policy you're talking about?
Yeah.
Is that a separate?
No, there was, I had included verbiage, if we can leave it at 10,000, and now it's over 10,000, we need to call an emergency meeting. We have no procedure at all. Our procedures manual is still sitting on the back counter someplace. And one of the issues is call an emergency meeting. If the chairman's not available, the vice chair should be able to call it, and or the treasurer, one of 3 officers, to call a meeting to discuss and approve expenditures above 10,000 if needed in an emergency. But we still need a quorum. I see that missing from here.
No, I know I don't. It's in there.
Is it?
It's right under the $50,000.
Which page are you on? 'Cause I think it's-
I'm not on the green page. I'm on the white page. Page 16.
15, all right, back to 15.
16.
16.
Roman numeral 4, emergency purchases, where it has the $50,000 number in it. The same paragraph that has the $50,000 number says above that number, which we changed to 10,
Okay, all right.
you get your 2 officers.
Okay, all right.
Or it can be called by either the chairman, vice chairman, or treasurer for additional funds.
Okay, very good. All right.
So any of the 3 of us could call an emergency if you need more than 10 grand. We get our quorum, you get your vote, you get whatever you need for the urgency.
We all agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, Hans, what did it mean in the next actual paragraph? If the local state of emergency, yada, yada, measured temporally and not geographically, what does that mean?
It means measured by time and not the location. So, for example, if so we're in the emergency exemptions due to emergency situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may not know exactly the geographic area where the emergency situation may be, but you know there is one. And so what this does is it limits it to time and not a certain geographic area, so that you're not handcuffed to, okay, well, let me back up. It doesn't have to be worded this way. You could say temporally and geographically, but if, let's say, for example, there's a storm coming and you don't know exactly what areas may be affected, it could be a declared state of emergency until a certain time, until the storm passes.
Okay, I'm good with that then. And everything else is just minor typo formatting stuff. I'm good with the rest.
Anybody else? Okay, the last thing is the addendum. There were no comments on that. This is the dollar thresholds. I assume that's okay. I did pull out exemptions from the bid and purchase policy for small items, providing an upper limit for the secretary. Anything over the $200 limit, all she has to do is check with the chairman or vice chair or treasurer if she needs something. Just a check and balance. Also, we excluded a variety of things, A through M. You have to take a look at that. That came mainly out of Orange Park. They have 5 pages. I think we need 5 pages defining small expenditures. And so I cut it down to things that we might run into. For example, advertising fees. We need to do a quick legal ad. We need to call a board meeting to do a $65 proceeds under $750. Notary recording fees. And another thing is, I included one time we were at a meeting and we were all running around trying to figure out where we're going to get the equipment. No one had the authority to authorize it. So I put a special advance rental under $1,500. If we needed, I don't know what. If you needed extra equipment to do a meeting in a hurry. Once I take that, that's fine. We've had a couple times over the years. They're not. It may be a limit that is too low, or it's probably high. I also could take a look at travel mileage under $500. In case we had one situation where the trustee had to go to Tallahassee. Had to do with an extra bill that failed, but trustee took off. Permits and inspection fees, newspaper subscriptions. I just put a few things in there that would keep us from slowing things down. Any comments on that? Take things out if you want. We're open for discussion.
When you say permits, what did you have in mind? Because I think of St. John's permits, which are
They run about $500, don't they? Permits for St. John's, don't don't they start at 500? The last ones I saw started at 500.
Something like that.
If I recall, that was the last time, it was 500 bucks. Have you guys raised your rates?
Wouldn't surprise me.
We had to do, that's what happened. We had to do, permit for something that was some time ago, St. John River Road match, it was 500 bucks. And we needed to get it done.
Okay.
So if you want to take it out, that's fine. If you want that included for the board to approve, that's okay too. It's all open for discussion.
Wasn't there something in there about your officers had authority up to a certain amount anyway?
Yeah, we're going to get back to that too. Yes, that's
Well,
correct.
if you got that, then shouldn't that apply to
That
those
could-
kinds of issues?
We could apply that, sure. So we want to include, we put 10,000, didn't we? We can change the wording on to include, what else? How do we,
Where are we at? I'm sorry.
permits? In an emergency situation? That might be needed. What do you think, Matt?
I've never heard of an emergency
Okay.
permit, because you're not gonna get an emergency approval.
Okay. Okay. Let's take that one out. Erase or.
All right, if we're not gonna finish this within 5 minutes, then we need to stall it
Okay, we're
and go
about
and finish it
done.
at the next meeting.
Okay, we're about done.
Okay,
Anything else? Okay, we're done.
thank you.
All right, so we'll massage all those changes in, email it out for one last review, and then
There we go.
approve it
Yeah.
next go around.
I'll have it to y'all before the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we're done.
Okay, that's all, Carl?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Weisenberg.
Okay, I'm gonna make it short. Last month, I brought up the fact that I had to get the bids for our insurance renewal that would happen October 1st. Alton signed my applications. I sent them in to Brown & Brown Public Sector, which is our carrier from the past couple of years. They specialize in the kind of insurance that we need as a municipality. They underwrote us this year by looking at our audit, which was hair-raising, and they looked at our minutes, they looked at our financial reports, they looked at the fact that we have funded ourselves a bit better, and that we have a plan to improve the dams. They approved us with just right at 10% increase for the same amount of coverages.
That's not bad.
No, very good.
Okay, so you need a,
So what I need
Motion
right
or
now
what?
is, I have a manual for you that's marked where you have to sign it so that I can get it back in and get our renewal to us by October the 1st.
okay, so we need a motion though to approve this?
I would like to make a motion that we approve it, yes.
Okay. You made the motion, got a second?
Second.
Okay, Larry seconded. All right,
So,
any more discussion?
Are there any changes? Everything's identical, just 10% price hike.
That's correct.
Okay.
No changes. And it's an extremely good policy. I spent a lot of time reading it because I wasn't familiar with it last year.
All right.
You'll find it one of the strongest insurance
Any-
policies for.
Any more discussion on it? So we got a motion, a second?
Fifth largest
All right.
commercial insurer. They
Okay.
have $20 million worth of this kind of coverage, so they're a good steady group.
All right, so you want the motion to stay, second to stay, and then we vote on it? Okay,
Somebody second it, please.
okay,
We
so
did.
all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, what else, Kevin?
Okay, one of the gentlemen that wanted to speak tonight has already gone home because he has to go to work tomorrow, but I'm going to not just speak about Wesley Road channel. I'm going to talk about everybody that's having trouble besides me that lives on a finger. I will say on my own behalf that I use my property in the back as a peaceful place to be. And right now, it sucks. But, more to the point, I called my appraiser, and he tells me that my property is now worth $70,000 less because I can no longer say that I'm waterfront and I'm disgusting looking. Now, the gentleman that just left has a worse problem than me because he's gonna sell his house because of a family emergency. And he needed to say the same thing tonight that I'm saying. We need to move forward with some sort of a plan to get rid of the weeds and to begin to maintain our lakes, because it's moving out of my finger, now out into the lake proper. I know Kay was over and looked at my finger, and hers is maybe not quite as bad, but still heading in that direction. And the gentleman that just left is being definitely affected because his channel is filling in, but he's growing weeds in every place. So when somebody comes to look at his house, it's disgusting. They don't want it. So I want to keep we're supposed to, by our charter, maintain the condition of our lakes and get rid of the weeds and that sort of thing. We got it put aside because somebody in the past didn't want to spend the money on it. Well, now we're bearing the brunt of it, and it's getting worse and worse. So I'm begging tonight that we put together some sort of a plan to begin to hire a person.
I think we can address that with Mr. Pence, but I would say a couple of things as far as an introduction to that. One is we used to have Lake Watch that did sampling and all that stuff, and it stopped in 2007. We used to have a permit that dealt with chemicals or whatever in the lakes.
My understanding, we own the permit again.
And that's what I was fixing to say, and he can address that. We have the responsibility for it. We decided that at the last meeting, for sure, after some research, that that is our responsibility, maintaining lakes and dams. And so Larry Mark had done something with a permit, and that permit is in Lance's name. I've got my name put on it, and I talked with the lady at the Florida Wildlife and Fisheries, and that permit expired in 2000. The previous permit expired in 2019 and had not been renewed. All right, so here we go again. And then guess what? I talked to him about the biologist about fish, carp, to eat types of vegetation, which is primarily hydrilla. And he told me that if we have algae, then you're wasting your time. They don't eat algae, and that's what a lot of this stuff appears to be, even though there's 15 opinions on what it really is, depending on who you talk to, whether you talk to Mark McMillan or whoever you talk to. And so he said you're wasting your time if you do the carp, and he said, and by the way, you will need a permit that you had that expired in 2015 on that. And you've got to have barriers which were removed so that you don't have your carp going into the Black Creek.
Okay,
We have an active permit as of sometime in July. And that permit, the other thing that I did after the last meeting was Carl gave me that much stuff on water quality and history and that sort of thing. And we're reinventing the wheel almost to a certain extent. The stuff that I read, we had a management company that we paid, I don't know, $1,500 a month, sounds like what it was. It was Charles Aquatics. And Charles Aquatics did certain things, wrote reports, regular updates, and they did two things. They treated the lakes chemically. They also arranged for carp as needed. And that was, carp is to be approached very, very cautiously, because that they used to do 15 to 20 per acre, and now they're saying 1 to 3 per acre or something like that. So I mean, it really wiped the lakes out, not just here, but a bunch of other places too. So this board had approved Larry to be our quote spokesperson for water quality and all that. He got involved with Lake Watch along with Mike Clements, who's in here, and Walt Guyver. So there's already 3 people been involved in that, and since Larry was already designated as our guy, I think we should establish him as the chairman of that committee to deal with all of the water-related issues.
I think that I wouldn't put on that committee because I am suffering right now.
Well, you can't be if you've got 2 board members, right?
Pardon me?
Can you have 2 board members with a sunshine law or not?
The committee, tell me, point committee is not on sunshine anyway, so we're getting liable with the sunshine.
I mean, if it's just fact finding, it's
I
okay.
don't necessarily need to be on a committee. What I want to hear is a plan of action.
Well, okay, Larry, go ahead and tell them what you've done since you've been involved for the past 1 week.
I've been on the phone with everybody you can talk to. Charles Aquatic is the people that you had in the prior days. They can no longer really work with us because they've downsized and don't have the manpower. I understand Mr. Wanting got a new permit, but that was for herbicides and spraying, that type of thing, because we do not have a permit for carp.
And mechanical. And mechanical.
And what?
Mechanical.
And mechanics. Oh, they come in and scrape it off.
And I talked to the lady today who informed me that, let's see, what was it, that we cannot obtain any carp until, where is it?
The barriers.
Got so much stuff here.
You have to fill out an application and the biologist has to come out and inspect your barriers.
Yeah, the biologist has to come out and inspect the,
And he said they're not there now.
and he said
They're
they're not there. So, you know, you're talking about needing a diver, who we might have to call one to have them go down and inspect it to see if we can get a permit for the grass carp. Otherwise, our hands are tied right now, we can't do anything.
Well, then what about managing it through some sort of herbicide?
And that's, go ahead.
Yeah, we
You talk about it.
do have, I need to get that number from Mr. Wantage. I think, Alton had tried earlier, but I need that so I can, at least get, and also, Mike Guyberg has been in touch with the 2 lake doctors in Solacide, trying to get some cost figures for us as to what we need. And on the tilapia work that I did, even though they did not inform me that, and this lady did, that I talked to yesterday, that we cannot use tilapia in the northern lakes. I know our water never gets below 50, but they evidently somewhere around here, they stocked tilapia in the lake. They had a fish kill, and then they were responsible for going in and getting all the dead fish out of the lake and everything like that. And after that one experience, they no longer will do it. So tilapia is no longer an issue, even though algae is all they will eat. The grass carp will not eat the algae. But then, in talking to today, Chris Bover, he came here, I think, Mike, did you have something to do with that?
No, he came out here to us.
He came out to do an inspection kind of on his own. He really was interested in our eelgrass that we have, because the St. John's River Water Management, they want that eelgrass back in the St. John's. And the other good thing about it, grass carp will not eat that, so we got that at least for a filter. But he's saying we don't have an algae problem.
Hydrilla or algae?
That, he said it's a bacterial growth that is clinging to the hydrilla, but is not algae. That's a quote from his.
I don't have algae, I have a duckweed of some kind.
It's duckweed.
Duckweed.
And the grass carp will eat the duckweed. But until we can get the parameters fixed and say that it's okay to put grass carp back in here, we can't get a permit to do anything.
But we can still get herbicide of some kind.
Yes.
Because I've read enough now, I know that there is an.
And we're working on getting the figures, the cost figures for that right now.
And it won't hurt the fish.
No,
It will not.
no, it won't hurt the fish, no.
Right, so, do you think by next meeting we'll have a plan?
Yes,
Oh, good.
yes. By the next meeting.
Can you clarify for me the barrier that's needed for the carts? What was it? What did we have before and where did it go?
Don't,
It was a wire, was it some?
don't have,
Like a
is it
second
that wire screen that used to be in the bottom of them? Okay. What I was told is the,
Is this related to the fact that?
Kittles, that there was a wire screen in the bottom of them prevent fish from going in, washing out and going into Black Creek.
Yeah, it's to contain the fish. They, even though they're supposed to be sterile, nature finds a way.
Exactly.
So if you let them out in the wild and they propagate, we're screwed.
But 2 years
So-
ago fishing, I saw grass carp feeding on top of it like that, and I know that they weren't restocked.
So is this just a mesh of certain openings?
Yes,
Yes.
that's exactly what it is.
That's what it's all about, that they
Yes.
cannot escape and get into Black Creek. Even though, I hope none of them were here in the meeting, because, in the flood, when we had the hurricane in 2017, I rode, because the water was coming over the dam from the South Lake into the North Lake, I rode down and grass carp were floating. It was just so much pressure, they were trying to feed, and they were going over that dam right and left.
Spillway. So this is just a mesh that goes over?
Yep.
All the spillway, yeah.
Was there any barrier in the spillway?
Huh?
Is that required?
Hundreds at a time. I watched it.
Nah, you saw it too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I watched it. It's big.
Oh, real big ones, and some of our bass left that way too.
Kind of like you strip chicken wire.
But anyway, it's all about the barriers and the kittles that they cannot escape into Black Creek in that manner.
But if all we need is mesh over 2 inlet pipes, why is this suddenly impossible to do? Why can't we make a plan to fix that?
You can, but until you do the
I
plan
really
and you
didn't,
fix the
truthfully, I
barriers.
didn't know who to ask or get on, unless it would have been Tim, to, make sure that we have them back in the kittles, the screens. I don't, who do I go to?
Well, it's going to be at the bottom or the pipe is at the bottom by the valve.
That's my understanding.
It's gonna be on the end, it's gonna be way out in the lake, 90 feet out.
Put them under the kettles, around the pipe under the kettle, because the kettles are only that deep in the water. So they can swim up and go right into the pipes, any fish could. But the intakes,
Do we also need them at the intake so if the valve is open, they can all?
yes, you would have to put something across the intakes if they're still in one piece.
Which would be subject to catching debris and blocking you up and causing all sorts of other issues, correct?
We put a pig in there, and it doesn't slow the water down.
Okay,
Yeah, the pipe conditioner.
There's too many holes with it, so I don't know.
fair enough.
But
I have a contact lady, Rhonda Howard, who does the permitting, and I'm gonna give her a call to see if she can explain to me what that barrier is that we need to accomplish so we can get the permit.
It should be on the 2015 permit, so if we can get the 2015 permit,
Yeah,
it should have the details of that. My point is though, that nobody said anything about, I asked the biologist when I talked to him about fish. Because in the St. Charles, or whatever, the Charles Aquatics, first off, Charles himself was a biologist.
yeah.
All right, but then secondly, he wrote in his reports about putting fish in, carp in, on a regular basis, and chemical treatment. All right, and so I said something to the biologist about that. I said, the permit that we've got addresses chemicals and manually removing stuff and things like that, mechanical. I said, but it didn't address the carp. He said, no, that's a different permit. See? So I didn't know that until he told me that, and it expired in 2015.
And Doug Charles.
And it
is no
had to
longer
have
with us.
it had to have the barriers that he's talking about, because he knew that it expired in 2015. He looked it up, and he knew that the barriers had been removed.
okay, now
So-
let's back up to the beginning of the conversation. Do we need to make a motion to establish a permanent committee for
Yeah.
this? Is that what we need to do, or is that?
That's
have
what
you
I'm-
ordained- are you
That's what I'm
ordained?
gonna do, yeah. It's gotta be, it's gotta be in somebody's name, so.
Because we need to pull in, I think, the Lola people and Mark, and there's other people working on this stuff, we need to all focus together.
Mhm.
But it's our responsibility.
Yeah, but it needs to be our responsibility.
Exactly. That's
I would be
what,
glad to make that motion that we establish this advisory committee.
It sort of sounds like we already have one.
We have unofficially. When I found all this information out based on the stuff that Carl had given me and then trying to get with Mark to get the permit all situated, then I did a lot of research, spent a lot of hours. And Larry was already involved on our board as dealing with the quality of water in the lakes. So I wrote up some stuff, gave it to Larry and said, you're doing this.
it says.
I can't continue to do it. And he got with Mike and Walt.
So can you make the motion then and set up this committee?
Yeah, that's what needs to happen. I'm saying, I make that motion that we,
I just
You
did.
just did.
okay, you did it, I second
That
it.
speaks for you.
Yeah, okay.
I
couldn't-
second then. So now he made a motion, I made a second.
Okay, so any more discussion? All
I
right,
just need a plan of action.
all right. And, well, he's got stuff on it, okay?
I'm working on it, dear. I do want you to know right up front that,
We haven't voted yet.
in the past, that the recommendation was 15 to 20 grass carp per acre, okay? The people that were in charge started off, and I have it here in black and white, with putting 100 grass carp in both the north and the south lake. They weren't satisfied. So they talked to someone, whoever was on the board, they put, and I have it right here, 1,000 grass carp in each lake.
They make good game fish.
Huh?
They're good game
1,000.
fish.
And that's from Charles Aquatic. What you shaking your head, no? You wanna read it?
That's a lot of carp.
No, we're just saying, we wasn't going to put that many carp in.
No, it's
The biologist has already said, the biologist said, Larry, you need, today's recommendation is 2 to 3 carp per acre. And you gotta give them time to eat it up, but you can't have them wiping all your algae out, or you won't have any kind of, which we don't have now, quality water. So,
all right, so,
hopefully it's gonna be taken care of correctly this time, but I just need to get the permit, and in order to get the permit, I gotta find out about this screen or whatever barriers is what.
well, the previous permit had, for the water, chemicals and all that, it had a listing.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and it's the same listing.
Yep.
Except he added one, the biologist added one. So if we can find the 2015
I have that
permit,
also
then
from Chris.
it'll have the barrier.
All the recommended, plant life that, the herbicide or
Yeah.
the chemicals will take care of.
Another thing we'll need to do is a public relations campaign on the carp, because when the carp were in there before, people were fishing them out and literally just throwing them up on the shore to die.
That's what they were told to do.
I know, but
Well, that was against the law. The dang things are protected.
Okay, so
I didn't have anything to do with that either.
we've got a motion and second to have Larry, and the committee
But next,
dealing with
by
water.
next month meeting, we will have an answer for everybody.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. We got all in
Hopefully
favor,
they'll have
aye?
a permit.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so we got that. It's frustrating dealing with stuff that, but that's the fact. Here we sit, Used to have permits, used to have lake watch. You don't have it, well, okay, get it, get something going, The only other thing I would say is that, technically, if you read the permit, the way it sits today, it says that a lake lot owner can call and get the permit number, and if we approve it, and can do treatment, all right? But what we're trying to do with this committee is get a plan, pay somebody to manage this sucker for us in all probability, and do the treatment, All right, so if we do that, then you don't need 400 lake lot owners going out throwing, no telling what in the lake.
Gotta be one effort.
Yeah, so it's gotta be one effort.
No, permission for comment that, that's what I really would like to do. I would like to, the permit will be in my name, but I want to get with Mike and Walk, and I think Mike is going to be on our committee anyway, and we're responsible for the water clarity. But we don't want, and this permit that was given to Mr. Wantage, each individual, and I want you to know this, but each individual could get a hold and get that permit number and go out here and buy herbicides, and for 50 feet out in front of your property, you can use it. But I really don't want that. I want our committee to get someone, either, what was the name of them?
Lake doctor?
Lake watchers, to come in here and manage it on a yearly basis and you know, maintain it. So once we get it established, it won't ever get like it is again now.
Did I hear you say you're gonna get a permit in your name? Where would it be in the MSD?
It's in MSD.
It just has to be in the individual's name that's on the board. That's all.
Can't be carried on MSD.
No. I'm 77 years old. I'm not looking to be God Almighty or run anything. I got on the board to help.
Trying to keep it legal.
Yes, have a good fishery and a good lake for people. It's not a swimming pool, so it's not going to be perfect, but I want good water clarity and a good fishery, and people can enjoy it. That's the only reason I'm sitting on here. No other reason.
Okay. Are you done, Carol? Are you done, Larry?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Leahy?
I guess I'll kind of revert back to Carol to help me here. But we put on a small presentation with Falls TV for the Community Association. They have agreed to co-fund the TV. I think it was 15 or 16.
We said 15, up at 1,500 our half,
Yeah.
but that also would have to include some install and whatever.
Yeah.
And I think Paul's will be this evening that we're looking at not $3,000 TV.
No. So that's been taken care of. So I would like to make a motion that we also come up with $1,500 to go towards the TV and the Comcast network that we need in this building. It's been proposed that we use cell phones with hotspots if we're going to have one of these meetings. I would be concerned about that. We could try it, but I don't want multiple people in multiple cities not being able to do their job and have a conversation when this does happen. I'm not going to be here for this October 3rd meeting, so I was hoping if we can get some ducks in a row, we can get this TV for audio visuals for not only for the board, but for the audience to have a better understanding of what we're talking about.
It's not.
No, it's not going to be.
I was gonna say, that's
It's not
very
going to
important.
be $3,000.
I saw it said 3,000.
You can get a really good one for $750.
It might be a $1,200 or $1,300, 75 to 85 inch TV. Paul and I are still shopping for TVs because there's a lot of idiosyncrasies as far as which TVs will screencast, which TVs have the right inputs and outputs, and team compatibility or Zoom compatibility. So I've learned that lesson just in the last 2 weeks. I got a new phone, and like there's so much I can't do with my new phone and my old phone. It's just a learning curve. In parallel with that, we put on a small demonstration as far as some audio, and at the end of the day, I think we all still know we have an echo problem in this building, and at this moment, I don't have an answer for that. But I do think we could all benefit with the TV and our audio visuals, even for Alden's presentation tonight, if he had the opportunity to put some things up that would show the audience what was being talked about, I think that would help the community.
When we're reading the ask for 1,500 tonight from this board, isn't that we're to buy that $3,000 TV, but for the time we buy the TV, get the parts that we need, get it installed and all of that, we'll not have spent the 3,000, but we will need more than, we need to have 1,500 from those organizations, is what it amounts to. And I have approval from the community association for that, but I need it from our association, so you need to make a motion so we can get going.
He did.
Okay.
Okay, is it gonna be mounted on our walls?
Yes, where there's a discussion now.
We're thinking of putting it over here. The audio people that we had kind of wanted to put it on that wall just because of shorter wiring, but it's going to be wireless, it's not going to need, and then it's a power.
Have you considered a locking, wall mount? So that
Yeah,
they can't-
okay, we'll be locked.
It will be
We'll go
fastened
like
to the
this.
wall. The building is locked, so
Okay.
we've done our diligence on that regularly. So that's
So your
I've
mo,
also been investigating sound systems, et cetera, and I think everybody, particularly on the community association, realizes the need for this improvement as well. I think it will benefit their offering for the building. But there's a lot of things that go into this. I can tell you right now, it's gonna be somewhere between 5,000 and probably 8,000 bucks for speakers in the ceiling kind of situation. Some of that money is gonna have to go towards some sound dampening equipment, probably, it's hard to describe, but you can even hang cloth clouds from the ceiling that will absorb the sound. You just need some antibiotic material that will help kill this echo.
Pardon me? Put some carpet on the wall. No, but we can. Why, I know, but what he's talking about is. I said you could put carpet on the walls, on the lower part, that will balance.
Well, there's many things that can be done, but we've got to do it in concert with the people that, at the community association, that kind of run the building.
Right.
So, yeah, it can be done.
The other option that he brought to our attention was, he's calling it clouds, and that's honestly what it looks like. It's things falling down from the ceiling, and I said, I'll paint the ceiling blue and put white clouds, and we'll have clouds, but I'm just saying, it actually could work, those like foam things up there.
Yeah.
But one step at a time.
so the motion is for you to go out of pocket up to 1,500 and then we reimburse you at a future meeting? And that's to cover
That's certainly
TV.
one mechanism. That depends on our purchasing procedure, I guess.
No, I'm just trying to clarify what your motion
I'm
is.
more than willing to put it on my credit card as long as I get reimbursed in the billing cycle.
So that's for TV installation, ancillary equipment associated thereof?
TV, the wall mount.
Okay.
And, we don't anticipate any professional installation in the whole building. Is that a safe statement?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter whether it's me putting it on my credit card, but some way we'd like to be reimbursed for it.
Yep, I second your motion. Seconded.
More discussion?
Who made the motion?
I'll make a comment.
Tom did.
This all falls within our new purchase policy, thousands or 10,000 is one written purchase order. Secondly, the costs fall in the same range that Darla and I came up with about a year and a half ago. So you're well within that range of stuff we can do.
Last comment, just from an educational point of view, in an infinite money situation, you can go to Shure or some of these high dollar microphone people, and they have little, what they call discussion systems. It's a little microphone, gooseneck microphone. Each microphone has its own speaker, so everybody can hear up here, because right now it's very difficult. The problem with those little systems is they're over $10,000. So now you wanna move away from wireless and just connect them all over the wire. That cuts the price in half, but it does have an aggravation factor as far as setting up the room and tearing the room down at the end of the night. And then at some point, somebody's wire is gonna break, and then somebody's gotta fix it, but that's not the end of the world. So it's just to reinforce, it's gonna be somewhere in the $5,000 to $8,000 ballpark, I think, by the time we get a decent system. And this can also feed into, proper recordings or, text-to-speech documentation for, minutes and archive of records, so. It has other value. With that, I'll stop. Thank you.
Other discussion? I would make one comment, and I like to get chastised several months ago about stepping into the real world with Zoom type meetings and stuff like that. So this would go a long way towards that. And I've talked with Hanson quite a number of times, and you know, and they certainly would support. And it would influence, it would benefit them and us with nothing more than our dam projects that we're dealing with.
Plus, it'll save us a lot of money when they're traveling
Exactly.
back and forth from wherever they are to here. I mean, airplane tickets are huge.
Yeah, they're all gonna show up on the 3rd, I expect we'll be billed for that.
Well, and they're not all gonna show up on the 3rd. There's a lady that is dealing with the grants that's in, I don't know where she's at, right? Yeah, they want her to participate, but they're not gonna add the fees to get her here to do it. So if we had something, then she would be participating, and she's done a lot. So, yeah. So that was my last comment about discussion. So, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. Is that it, Tom?
Yeah, so the other thing is, I guess I've somehow kind of grown into this relationship with Forest Groundworks. I'm okay with that. I get the impression their contract is about to expire, so I think we need a new contract rather than renewing contract. I'm sure I'm not encouraging them to raise their price, but I would expect that costs go up like everything else. So, having said that, and I think that we've all heard tonight, just from the brief summary Alton gave us, that there's trimming and bushes and trees that I don't know if they want to get involved in that. It would be a good synergy, contract-wise, to start pruning back some of this wildlife. But anyway, I'll bring that up. So if we need a new contract, it seems like a good time to write a new contract.
Is this something they're gonna have to get?
It depends on our policy, which I'm not familiar with yet.
What are they?
Very well performing subcontractors.
24 month?
It's like $24.55 a month, and he did say he apologized, he did not respond to my email asking about additional cost. He says his costs are rising. I said, get it to us if you need to decrease a little bit, because their costs are rising. We need to get this contract done. Carol's in charge of the contracts.
I don't know how long maybe we've been involved. If we want to do competitive bids, that's certainly.
This goes back to 2018. It's the first one. Yes, 2018, October.
That's kind of a separate question,
Well, I think you're right, Tom, the scope of what they're doing versus what needs to be done. When you look at some of the comments that are in this, some of that needs to be incorporated. And frankly, I think if you read the contract, I saw it one time, they should have already been doing some stuff like cleaning up to the discharge pipes going into Black Creek. And I don't, that's not really been happening.
I've received several renewals, but I've yet to see the original contract.
We do have a professional, a lawn care service that lives right here on the lake. He might give us a better rate, I don't know, because he lives here.
Yeah, I don't mind.
That same guy that mows South Dam,
I don't think so. It's
I know he lives on the lake.
Okay, it's Ozzy Landscaping or something like that.
I know that among the three organizations, everybody seems to have one lawn service. So, that also, I talked to Wanda about changing ours, but she doesn't want to change ours because they do a lot of extra things for
Wonder if all three organizations got together.
So, I mean, is there any reason why we couldn't get instead of sending it out for bid, why not just get 3 quotes? If all 3 organizations do different stuff, get a quote from each one of the different providers
I don't have a problem with that, we just need to have specifics as to what is being moved.
for the scope.
For everybody.
Yeah, for scope. Yeah, I'm with you.
All right.
And I think let me tell you when that one comes up again. Look at the fact sheet. When was it signed?
Need the date?
Yeah.
It's October, it's towards the end of the month.
But it's right away,
10/3/18.
so that's pretty fast.
This price range requires 30 written quotes. Doesn't require a full request for
Can I have this, or is this?
Really,
So we can go out and get 3 quotes written.
Oh, it's a copy? Okay.
We
All right.
only need 3 written quotes, we don't need to go out to.
What she's saying is she's saying she needs a scope to get quoted on.
Everybody's scope, and each one of
I
our
understand.
organizations' scope is different,
That's
and
correct.
they're all very particular. So I need those before we ask for a quote.
Well, we're missing a lot of stuff. I think Shirley just sent me the 2019 contract.
Which one is big him?
Okay, you got it, all right. That's, okay.
I think that's what.
Okay, that's it.
All right.
And I'll check it within what I have at home, which I don't think I ever had it. I had prepared something, it went out for signature, I never got a copy of that.
That's correct.
So, but if you've got the contract, you've got the original scope, correct?
That one, yes, but there's still Lola and there's still, the community association, they're all 3 different.
I know, but what I'm saying is we can get, for our scope, we can get 3 quotes. We can get the quote from our existing provider, the provider of the other 2 agencies, but for that scope. And then we get 3 quotes. And if we need to do a change order to get a bush hog in there to haul out some brush or something, we can do that at a later date.
All right, so I'll review this and comments, and I'll come back and if there's time, and we can comment on the changes.
One of the later contracts, we had an addition that laid out the charges to do extra work, like, I don't know, that's 2019 to 2020.
Okay, so are you coordinating that then?
Yeah,
All right, so let's move on. We've been here a long time. All right, so you'll coordinate that. There's no reason for a motion or anything, right? Okay. So, anything else, Tom?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. Did you hear me under my breath saying you're supposed to say no?
I can't hear anything here.
That's good. Vice Chairman Matt.
Future month. I'm punting. We're at 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Let's move along.
Let's see, we got, board motion's been complete, I think so, but we've got a few new ones. I would propose, Tim Lee gave us a proposal for $4,000 to remove the siphon system. That absolutely is going to have to be done. St. John Water Management District will insist on it. They're already insisting on it. I begged them before to not do it, and they went along with it. But guess what? It's broke now, so we need to get that thing out of there.
I'll second that. I've been wanting it gone for 2 years.
What are we talking about?
removing the siphon system from the spillway.
I don't know if it fit or not, but
I don't know.
Tim had mentioned saving some of the parts, but, at some point, do we need to be thinking about a small building to do certain things?
Excuse me, Tim, is there any salvage, parts to it?
Yes, there's 2 valves that I'll take out and store. There's 4 flanges that I'll have to cut, wrap, store them. And the rest of the pipe, stanchions, all the stuff has to be pulled out, cut up, and hauled to the dump.
So with the $4,000 quote, who owns all the miscellaneous components? You own it at that point, or that's for
So
the
he's
board?
just storing it for nothing.
I'm just storing it for nothing.
You the man, Norton, you the man.
I'll store those parts, that way if we do have to use it,
Okay,
it'll be just a matter of buying the pipe and the couplers to hook it all back together.
okay,
With the flanges and bolt valves, it'll still be there, which is like a couple of pipe. It'll
Okay.
be a lot less expensive to put a new one in, plus I'll pull the stanchions out of the lake and 2 barriers out of the lake. And then all the brackets that are bolted in on the spillway, the concrete part, I'll have to cut them off, seal those holes up. So it's more than just
yeah,
picking it up, hauling it out of there.
yep,
A lot of work to get done. Because every piece of that pipe has to be cut, that is unrolled. So I'm gonna be cutting half and all of it.
Okay, so I make a motion that we get Tim to do that.
And I second it.
Second, any more discussion? The only discussion that I would say is, if we had done the right thing and fixed the east valve, we would have never put the siphon system in and never had that problem and other problems that have been created from it. But here's where we sit, and this is what we're gonna have to do. So
TikTok.
I would vote, all right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Okay,
I
one
have a
last,
quick update, and I can do it in under a minute.
okay.
So we can end the meeting. on a good
Can
note.
I, if you got a good minute, then let me throw this in here that's got something to do with the darn spillway in a way anyway. All right? Cause it's not a good one. It's not a good one. You remember the board asked, Tim Lee to check with Donnie Wright and other people about, what are we gonna do with the spillways and that kind of stuff? Well, Donnie Wright, he left here and I'm glad he did, but, I guess, I don't know whether or not. Sale of North Spillway property. He's given us a proposal for cash money, cash lump sum summary. He would sell us roughly a third of an acre, I think it is, for $325,000 cash. If you want to do a 2-year payment agreement, that would be $350,000, $250,000 at closing, balance of $100,000 at 1-year anniversary. Or a 3-year payment agreement of $375,000, $200,000 at closing, $100,000 at 1-year anniversary, balance of $75,000 at 2nd-year anniversary, or $150,000 at closing and $150,000 at 1-year anniversary, balance of $75,000 at 2nd-year anniversary, all closing costs to be paid by buyer. And then here's your lease agreement. 1-year lease of North Spillway, $1,500 per month, payable on the 1st of each month. If additional piping's installed, you add another $500 per additional pipeline installed. And it's got some other stuff about maintenance and that sort of thing. And then here's what gets back to getting that thing out of there. A $12,000 retro lease payment, 12 months at $1,000 for the period covering July of 2021 until July of 2022, which is the length of time that siphon system has been installed without his permission and without a permit. So payment due and payable on execution of the lease. Now, he was, I talked with them, all of the landowners before we did the inspection of the dams. I talked to all 5 of those people that are associated with that and told them we got their permission and all that. And you could tell that he was not very happy when we were looking at the spillway. And this is the reason for it, it's because he's expecting to be getting paid some amount of money. And I told him, here was my stance. I said, look, we don't know what the new systems are going to look like. And there's no way we would commit to buying any land, at any price until we know more about what these new systems are going to be. So it comes down to, we're gonna take this system out. That's gonna get St. John Water Management District, get us on a better side with them, which they're gonna insist on it anyway. They already are. But
You're talking about the siphon, not the spillway, correct?
the siphon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is there anything that we should do for him?
So I
mean,
talked.
That's the.
It's reasonable to assume that we can make other designs and put them on property that's not encumbered by any other party.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
At this juncture, when we get our new design, we need to bring John Ward and the emergency management folks in on it, because they have things that they can do that we can't talk about at this meeting.
Okay. I have heard some things that I'm not gonna talk about at this meeting too, but they did not work out, okay? So it may be the same thing you've heard about.
No, this is totally different.
Okay, well, and two, the whole scope and process of fixing dams does not just involve the people on the Lake Ashbury Drive side of the lake. It involves the other people. I don't know what that's gonna develop into, you know? We know that the reports that I just reviewed a while ago say trees. Well, them trees ain't just our property trees. They're just about everybody else that's on that dam's trees. So this is not, you know. Anyway, I brought this up because he was irritated, and this is why. He said you didn't get the approval. There was no agreement. Then the truck showed up and did the work. St. John Water Management District wants it out. He's talked to somebody with DEQ or DEP, and that's increased his liability to him as far as discharging water and all that sort of thing. So, you know, which is a whole different legal issue, Hans, I think. It's we put that in originally, but it's not on our property now. He bought it in their
It's
property
gone.
in
It's gone.
85,
It's
so-
gone. It's
so-
gone. We voted it gone.
Yep, it's over.
It's done. Let it go.
What do you mean?
Let it out to sea.
I'm not
The
talking
siphon.
about the siphon now, I'm talking about this thing.
So he owns the siphon system?
No. He owns the land that it's on. We didn't get a permit. We didn't get an
So
easement.
you're talking about for the spillway then?
Yeah.
Okay, so step one, I talked to a real estate appraiser. Step one is he has to have the parcel subdivided, then we can have it appraised, then we have a reasonable price. Because I don't know if 300,000, maybe that's cheap, maybe it's not, who knows? But
Well, we asked him to investigate it, so you got a comment?
I do. As you know, we put that on Donnie's property. I say we as a group, I'm not on the board, but we put that on Donnie's property without permission.
we're talking about the spillway or the siphon?
We're talking about siphons.
Siphon's done.
No, it's not.
It
is not, because it has to be removed, okay?
You have to get his permission to remove it, okay.
We, as a Lake Lot Owners Association and all that, we've had it on his property for over 12 months. He's asking for rent. He did not get permission for it to be on. He's asking $1,000 a month, is that correct?
That's what this says.
And I believe, after we talked to him, that he agreed to take $6,000 total for it, and be done with it, and let us go pull it off of there. Is that correct?
I told him that I was not authorized by the board to make an offer. I said $12,000 is ridiculous.
Correct.
So would you consider something less than that? I said, but again, I'm not making an offer because I don't know what the new system will be or where it will be or anything. And he came back pretty quickly and said he would take half of that.
So as
we, as a board, are responsible for having that on his property, should y'all vote to get pay him the $6,000 and be done with it, and get it out of there, and then it's gone, it's no more.
Yeah, but
Let me
the re-
share a little bit of information that may be enlightening. We did not, as a board, allow that siphon system to be put on its property. Takoi did not allow that siphon system. They installed it. They were under the direction of Clay County Emergency Management to get it done.
No. You're totally wrong.
I am not wrong.
Yes, you are. I was involved with the COI. I was involved with the COI on that whole process. And the engineer of record, which was the COI, dictated every bit of that.
They did, but they were under the direction of the Emergency Management of Clay County.
No, look, the whole thing about.
I'll die at this up.
You let me finish. What the whole deal about trying to get an easement through Wayne Flowers' group and all that started way before we got into it being time to put the stupid thing in. Yeah, we got into that, but we should have not got into that. That's what I'm saying. There's all the discussions and all that crap took place for weeks before we got into that. Oh, crap's hitting the fan now.
So did Donnie know he owned the spillway? What date did Donnie realize he owned the
Probably in 1985 when he bought the property. That's when he got a survey.
So
We didn't know he owned it until sometime during the Takoi installing of the siphon system. We thought it was half owned by him and half owned by the
it
other.
seems there's got to be a pretty clear path of
Responsibility.
here.
Yeah.
If he knew he owned it,
If he knew he owned it, then does he have where does the responsibility for maintaining it, cleaning it out? You know, it showed in that report, clean that sucker out. Is that he owns it? Let him clean it out, you know?
And for that matter, he
And where
owns
does-
part of the dam, so should he
where
be
does common
responsible for
law,
that?
there's a 7-year common law thing that ties into this too, doesn't it? As far as
I don't know.
Actually, that's-
sliding.
Well, we don't have to look. We've been here long enough. We don't have to do anything with that. But that's there.
It's on the table.
it's on the table.
It's on the table, and we voted for Tim to take that rascal out. Wear your bulletproof vest when you go down there to do it. I'll help you. You know. But it doesn't.
Look, in all honesty, you can take it out from our side, but if he refuses to have it taken out from his side, it can just stay there and rot, I guess.
No,
But
okay.
we just remove whatever we've got connected to, so what's on our property.
I don't think so. I think the whole thing has got to come out of there. That's
Oh, I do too,
that's what St. John River is expecting.
And trust me, I'm not gonna go down there without Donnie saying, yes, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He may not say yes unless he's got a check or something, you know.
Counselor, do you have an opinion on this?
Yeah, don't agree to anything. I can look into whatever you want to look into, but there's a lot of property rights issues involved in this, to your point. I mean, he owns that land, there's a lot of liability on that due to his ownership. So he, on one hand, he can demand something, but on the other hand, things can be demanded of him. So, I could step in anytime you want me to.
Well, and the other reason for bringing it up is what's the right thing to do, which is kind of what Tim was bringing into the picture.
True,
what's the right
but if
thing
you
to
think
do?
about right thing to do,
Where does it stop, you know?
was his property value harmed in the meanwhile? No. Did he lose access to a part of his property that he would have used for a different purpose? No. Has he been financially harmed by it being there, other than it just being an irritating, slight eyesore?
No.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the practical aspect
Yeah,
of it.
he tries to say that he's got increased liability based on his conversation with somebody in DEP about environmental. If something happens, then he's got more environmental liability.
Well, again, liability is if something happens. Nothing has happened.
Get it out.
If he gives us permission, we will remove it, and then this whole liability issue goes away for all involved.
Mark?
Just one question that you might want to research. What is his liability if the dam fails?
Well, I mean, it's, the way that this was apparently developed is really no different than some neighborhoods where The retention pond isn't dedicated to an HOA. Each owner owns a portion of their land that goes into the retention pond. It's no different than that. You got, as a property owner, you got liability on the property you own. You know, if someone goes into a retention pond and it's not owned by the HOA and it's either on a section of someone's property and something happens, that property owner is gonna be liable for that. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, you know, demands can be made, but,
It can
you know,
cut both
arbitrary
ways.
numbers
Yeah.
with no real basis and where they come from, I mean, that doesn't really mean much to me. And if you're not looking on the side of liability, you know, I mean, there's several scenarios where he would be running, begging you to take it out, you know, to avoid liability, which, I mean, maybe he's not thinking of.
Do we have liability if there's this 1,000-year storm and our water overflows and destroys his home? Now who's liable?
Yeah, I mean, there could be liability issues.
Everybody's gonna be liable.
It's,
I mean, you could
it's
come up
muddy
with-
water. There's, what he's saying is there's no, everyone's going to be in the same cesspool on this one.
Because everybody bought knowing the risk that they exposed themselves to. And they accepted it when they bought it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sensitive to to this issue, but I mean, when you read that in its totality, I mean, it's clear what the motive is.
So anyway,
Okay.
it's on the table.
It's on the table, we discussed it, we're not going anywhere with it.
One more thing I'd like to say on Donnie's behalf, because he already left, is keep in mind, we're gonna be all over his property quite a bit, redoing this dam. We certainly don't want him saying, stay off my property.
True, but to the attorney's point, we're upgrading his property that he is responsible for upgrading. It's his responsibility to maintain that, and it's his responsibility to make sure that it's not going to breach. And we are choosing to expend our funds and the lake lot owner's funds to make upgrades to that property. It may not be the way he sees it, but that's the way it is.
I understand. Keep that in mind, you don't have bad relationships with somebody you'll be working all over the top of.
I understand.
Well, that whole, look, yeah,
How you want to, you know.
that's not just gonna pertain to Donnie Wright, that's gonna pertain to Wade, it's gonna pertain to Mr. Sands, it's gonna pertain to I can't remember his name either, on the other end by Donnie. And so there's some more discussions and legal stuff that's gonna have to go on, in this whole construction activity. on that.
Case in point, is this, slope 3.511, is that in statute? I mean, if we have to start bringing dirt in to reach some slope on the face of the dam, and we're putting dirt in Donnie's living room, that's not a good situation either. We're gonna have to work through it.
It's, yeah.
Oh, if we had to gradually, if we had to re-slope it, we could re-slope the lakeside too. That's the other thing. We could build away from.
If that's part of this equation, we're all.
That's why we hired these Hanson engineers.
Yeah, there's more than one way to fix the slope issues.
We can't fix everything. Okay, Janet, you said you had you could finish this quickly on
We
a,
can leave on a very happy note. The LMS litigation, or no, what is it? I never could remember what it is. It's too late. We have been moved up on that list from 26 to 10.
Sweet.
Okay. What is in front of us, number 129, is all hardening for terroristic activities. So we are close to getting money.
Woo!
Yeah, it'd be a grant from the county.
Janet, you're talking about this here,
No, I'm talking about the LMS. That was-
LMS project list.
Oh, okay, yes.
And it's got item 10, it's got A through L, and this has got all kinds of items on it.
Yes, that is all of the stuff from our CIP.
One of them says $16,500,000.
Yes, sir.
What is that?
It is to coin numbers and fix our dams.
No, not 16,500,000.
That's one of their figures.
No,
Came
no.
off of theirs.
Yeah, I heard that too, total project for all of it, was it about 16 million at one time? they were talking?
Carl's the only one said that.
Oh, no, their figures were 7.5. I ran it through the Coker formula.
The Coker
Come up
formula.
with something.
Okay. All right.
That was just a guess.
My point is that these items will not stay the same,
No, they don't.
okay?
Well, you base it on inflation, but anyway, that figure is just
All right.
so well as good as anybody else's.
Yeah, we're gonna have a figure when Hanson gets
Correct, I know.
Yeah.
in here,
Once they
okay?
give actual figures, these are just,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
a
all right.
sense, magic numbers.
Anything else? Okay, I make a motion, we resign tonight.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, this is crazy. I saw this thing, and all of these are our things, and it's 16.5. Lake Ashbury Water Group, 16,500,000.
Yeah, yeah.